Exactly what we did. We selected some outstanding people from the northeastern Florida area and Jacksonville area to help us with this project. Miss Alberta Hips, many of you may know her. She at one time was the chairman of the Jacksonville City Council. Our engineer, Sam Musa, was the city engineer in Jacksonville. We retain a law firm, Lewis, Longman & Walker, one of the premium law firms, again in Jacksonville. We have also retained other services from people who are experts in their field. In particular, Bill Straw, our air quality engineer, who is responsible for the writing of the permit through 18 months worth of work with the EPA. We have a systems engineer by the name of Don Corwin, who is recognized throughout the United States as being one of the experts in putting these systems together. So, when we went down this road to make this a reality, I've surrounded myself with people I believe are the very best. I don't know everything I'd like to know about the medical waste business. In the last 3 years, I've learned a lot, asked a lot of questions, done a lot of research. But I've also surrounded myself with people who know the answers to the rest of the questions that I don't. So this company is well-founded, well-grounded, and is going to be well-supported throughout the course of our business venture. Where we go from here, a lot of it's up to you and the other people here. We expect that tonight we'll provide some good answers to you, to your questions. Will we answer all your questions? We hope to. Some may be left unanswered. We'll take them along with us and get answers back to you. But the basis for this evening is just simply you to get to know us and to know exactly what we're going to do. And there have been reports in the media about what we're going to do. Some of them are completely erroneous. This is not a medical waste dump. I don't know where that idea came from, but it's completely wrong. And you'll see that later.
Well, go ahead and get the slides started.
I'd like to go through a very quick briefing with you, and again, to give you some background, and then we'll get on with the questions. Our goal: partner, build, and serve. We're seeking a partnership with Suwannee County to build this facility, provide jobs for the county, and service the rapidly growing medical waste needs of the Florida region. Why do we need incineration? The end result reduces the weight by about 90 to 95%. What's left is inert material that is tested and then taken to the appropriate type of landfill, whether it be a class 1, 2, or 3. This facility, first of all, will always have the environment and safety in the forefront of our business plan and operation. The facility itself has a lot of safety features built in. They're designed to guard against not only operator error and malfunctions, but they require adherence to all safety and operational protocols for the facility itself. The technology we used is technology that is already in use in separate systems throughout the nation. We know it works. We also know it will comply with these rigorous standards that are due to take into effect in October of 2014. As a byproduct, this facility will be energy self-sufficient. It will produce energy through a turbine assembly and generator assembly that will actually take care of the energy needs of the facility. Importantly, the jobs here in Suwannee County, the first build, phase 1, we'll look to hire about 61 people. And that will be the initial build of the facility. When we begin to hire staff, we'll team with the appropriate agencies locally through the state to make sure everyone has the opportunity to make an application and to work for this firm. Upon the completion of the facility, we expect to hire about 40 more workers. In total, at the end of the build of the facility, there'll be approximately 104 workers. Right now, I'd like to ask my colleague, Bill Straub, to go over with you the very important air permit that we received for operations of this facility. Bill.
Thank you, Jay. Everybody hear me okay in the back? Excellent. Once again, I'd also like to say thank you for allowing us to come and be able to talk today about the project. First step in the process, as we looked at it from a permitting side, was the air permit. The air permit is usually the most difficult permit to get, has the longest lead time, so that was why we led with the air permit. This is a construction permit, so what this permit allows us to do is be able to...
Pull that mic up a little bit so we can hear.
Sure can. How about that? Is that better?
Better, thanks.
Sorry about that. The construction permit allows you to actually construct the facility and allows you to get to the point where you can operate it. At that point in time, you have to apply for an operating permit to be able to continue to operate a facility going forward. So what we applied for was the construction permit. I won't bore you with the details there, but just to give you a frame of reference as you look at some of those, this is considered a minor source construction permit. What that means is that we're below certain thresholds, emission thresholds, that allowed us to be able to go through the minor source process. We're also a minor source for what they call HAPs. And that really allows us, equates you to similar to a dry cleaner, to maybe a small facility that has an emergency generator that would be regulated. We'd be regulated by those same area source or minus source type rules. And then the last regulation is that we are subject to subpart EC, as Mr. Barry talked about, which is the rules that are specific to the incinerator. One of the most important things, and Mr. Barry already started to talk about it, was how the limits were established for this type of operation. And I think it's really important to understand the process because these limits aren't just limits that have been there for the last 30 years and everybody's able to comply with them. There has been a development of limits back in the late 90s and early 2000s that were considered what they call MACT, Maximum Available Control Technology. So as part of that evaluation, the EPA is required to look at the control considerations, and when I say control, I mean air pollution control, to make sure that the air is clean. They're required to look at that, consider technology, and they're required to make sure that human health and the environment are protected. So that was the process that went through back in the late 90s, early 2000s. As the follow-up to that, there's a requirement then to review those rules every 5 years to make sure that as technology changes or as laboratory analyses change, that you're constantly improving these units and these facilities, lowering the emission standards, and consequently having cleaner air for all of us to breathe. So that's the process that recently went through, and that's the rules that were established that Mr. Barry alluded to that were in effect in 2009 and that we will be complying with when the unit's constructed. This gives you a sense of the order of magnitude of the emissions. As you can look at it, one of the first considerations is, are we a major source or not a major source? And the level of permitting required is dependent on whether you trip that threshold or not. And the answer to the Title I type requirements is no, we're not a major source for any of those criteria pollutants or for the greenhouse gases.
So,
Well, if you don't mind, ma'am.
we can't even see those numbers. How do we know they're exactly what you're telling us? We can't even see those numbers up there.
Afterwards, I'd be more than glad to show them to you. I have a copy of the permit right here so we can look at those. These are the specific limits that apply to the incinerators. So these are concentration-based limits that would apply to each of the 9 pollutants that are regulated under those EC rules.